been on the council, this is my 7.5 year. As some of you know, my wife and I were in the process of moving. That may have made a lot of people happy, but I hate to disappoint them because we're staying. We're not going anywhere. Going back here. Everybody's going.
The first item is the website operating system. And I did bring their, PowerPoint that they provided to discuss why they're changing their system. It gives a number of different details. The system is going to be more robust than it was. It's going to give us additional, it's going to be easier to use. It's going to be a little more open format. It's going to be much easier for the person that's posting things on there to use it. And they've simplified a number of things. They've also added additional security, and they are, until we worked with them before, I didn't even know this was a thing, but they are very ADA compliant. And they are adding capabilities in that regard as well. So there's a lot of different aspects to it that are supposed to be great improvements over what we currently have. But the main thing is it'll be easier to operate, easier for people to see things and find things on there, and make it easier to get our information out. Doesn't matter if we post it, if people have trouble finding it or going through the website, and this will make it a lot easier, simplified formats.
So is that a change of price or?
Yeah, the pricing is behind there, and it starts a new contract. We're in the very first section about the new website. The pricing's in the other piece, this piece. And, the tracker, it is the first year with the transition in our current contract, it will be free. The second year, it's $12,700, and years after that, it's got a 5% escalation like the other software.
So who else is using them right now? You said the last city out is Springdale, Rogers, been really active using these.
Back when I was looking at this, now I'm not sure if they all still do, but used to, it was Springdale, Fayetteville. There were several with smaller towns like Farmington and Elkins and some of the others in Northwest Arkansas. And they are a nationwide company that does this. And when we compared this with IT Watch, where they had a website back a few years ago, they were about 14,000. So,
We're talking to anyone else?
not this go around, this is an upgrade on our own system.
So what does it cost now?
I will have to, I haven't looked at our current bill. I think is it like 4,000, 3,700, something like that per year? It's substantially less than this, but this is still less than some competitors were when we were looking 4 or 5 years ago.
What we love, what we saw.
What about now? Are they less than a competitor now?
We We
I
can
mean,
look.
that's a big jump for
Right. I got this earlier this week and got a notification, so I have no problem looking at this packet.
I'd like to know what else the they provide, if you have issue or they, is support available to you via phone or email, or how does it work?
We have, that I've used before. They do have a toll-free number if you want to talk to someone. You also have an email address to their support service, and they will respond fairly quickly with an email back, and they can set appointments if you want to do something while you're there and let them on with you. There's a number of different ways, like most of the software companies, that they can support the product.
You just made a point that it takes it took 2 years to fix it. What was the problem? Why did it take them 2 years?
Well, and I don't know that all of it was to fix one thing. I don't know what the circumstance was. Because I know that laws changed along the way, and there were 2 years ago, some of what they're talking about now wasn't even considered. Some of it came in with AI, with some of the security updates. There's a whole list of things that have changed. So I do know that when we were going over this before, they monitored the system continually. They send out tests on a periodic basis. If you suddenly have an unusual high traffic flow to your site, they will come on and see what that's about, to see if there's someone trying to hack. There's a lot of things that they do security related where they're actively involved.
I'm sure most of them have to, but I'm not saying they all do, but most of them have to. And my question is that I really want to know what is the other city around us are using. Have we got compared to this? And yes, I do want to know the update that we wanted to do 2 years ago that you mentioned. Why did it take 2 years? What was the circumstances? I just don't want to jump into something again. That's my opinion. I don't want to jump into something and take years to update something.
I think we've just given this, and there's a lot of facts missing, and a lot of information that you yourself said, I don't know. I
The
think
guy was willing to be on a Zoom call with us today, but we weren't able to get that set
I
up.
mean, that's well and good, but, I mean, even like, to me, if I've got a problem, I want to talk to somebody. I don't want to have to deal with an email and go back and forth. For me, emails can be misinterpreted
Right.
so easily. I want to talk to a person if I have a problem. And
They do have a toll-free service.
I understand, I heard you say that, but then you turn around and said, well, they have an email too that you can, and that's fine that they
Is
got.
the mic on?
But I just,
But it's your choice on how you reach out.
okay.
It's not that you have to reach out by email. If you prefer to talk to them, you can.
I understand that.
Just
I
want to
just
get the
think we
facts
don't have
before
enough
making a
info.
decision. That's
Yeah.
all. Did you?
We just can't hear a word you all are saying at all, so I don't know if your microphones are on or not, but
Mine is on.
Mine is, I can hear it.
It's not doing anything.
It's not
It's
doing
dead as a hammer.
yeah, it's not doing it.
Nope.
That's why I walked over and turned the air down, because we couldn't hear anything.
1, 2, 3. Wait for it a little bit.
Yeah, mine is.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Did it?
Maybe just a little.
Nothing.
Yeah, I guess I'm not.
Maybe-
Just hearing me on echo.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's-
it's good.
maybe
There's a
it's-
lot of voice.
Maybe there's a phone number we can call.
Yeah. Put it to work. Show us what you got. No, so, I mean, if I'm reading this right, the first year's free,
Yeah,
okay. And is it a contract then?
it is a contract.
So
It
the
is-
box-
it was.
It's working now.
Yeah, naturally. Go ahead.
It locks in the revenues you're assuming they're free. So it's, you really gotta look at it like a package.
Right, it's
So that's friendly, that at least the first year is free. I mean, it kind of gets you off the ground running. And then, I mean, if they can't live up to their end of it, you guys reach a contract and you're not out of it.
A lot of them,
I mean, you could
front
avoid
loaded.
that paying anything.
Yeah. A lot of them front loaded when they're installing everything
Yeah,
and doing all the
usually it's the other way
upgrades.
around,
It's more expensive and then it comes down. This one, they do the first year's upgrades for free and then
And then they collect.
once
It's
you're.
almost like they got to earn it though. I mean, that's actually one good thing, but I mean, it is a big jump, I agree. It's from 4,000 to
I'm not so much on board with
12,000
this,
a year. It's 4,000 per year, right? That's what.
I think that's what it is now. It's 4,500, something like
Yeah.
that. It's been a while since I paid it, so I don't
Okay.
remember exactly.
Okay.
Damn, we're so losing money. Again, I did want to see a couple of other.
And we can do that. This, was the first I saw the presentation was this week, or this past week, and so I got everything together so you could see it. And that's something else that's coming next. I'll go ahead and get with them and do a little research and bring back more information at the next work session.
Thank you.
The next item is E-Links, and we've got someone here to do a presentation tonight.
First off, appreciate you taking your time out to let me present for you. My name is Courtney McMillan. I am the Field Services Manager for E-Links Technologies. I am not a salesman, so give me some grace. I'm not good at this part of it. But you guys are in my backyard. I live just north of Russellville, so I wanted this account, and I will be the one taking care of it. So since it's right here, I wanted it. There we go. Sorry. So who are we? E-Links is a Tulsa-based company. We're a modern cloud application for SCADA. We have been doing this since 2000. Our bread and butter has been the energy market, oil and gas, and utilities. Let's see. We started in water in 2019. We found that the water industry, city municipalities have been pretty much taken advantage of due to their very niche market and only a few providers providing for them. So from what we have found, everything is really inflated on cost. So we started in 2019 with rural water in Oklahoma and Arkansas. Right now, we have over 2,000 users that log into our application daily, and just a fun fact that we send out over 1 million alarm notifications out of our system every month. Just a quick overview on, I don't know how familiar you are with SCADA and how it works. SCADA is an acronym that stands for Security, Control, and Data Acquisition. So you have your sensors like temperatures, pressures, wet well levels, all come back to a PLC or an RTU. Then you go out with your communications layer, which we would be using cellular, goes back to the SCADA engine, and then our cloud platform is what you visually see, your HMI. So basically it'd be your lift stations coming in through your communication to the SCADA engine to the HMI. And any data point that you bring into our system can be alarmed off of. You get emails, texts, you get voice call outs. We're really good at our alarming part of it. Like if you have people that are on a set schedule, you can schedule who gets the alarm, when they get the alarm. If they do not acknowledge the alarm, it escalates up to someone higher, and it can be based on time limits or times of day. You can also, with our alarm notifications, if you're actually out there working on something, you can disable it from your phone. Everything that we do, 95% of it can be done from your phone. So you do not need a tablet or a laptop in front of you. You can do it from your phone, as long as you have internet access. But you can disable what you're working on, so you're not sending out constant alarms, but you have to put a time period for how long you're gonna do it. And after 24 hours, it automatically rolls back in, and you cannot disable it longer than 24 hours. That way you don't forget to turn your alarms back on.
So who would do the turning off?
So everything is role based. You're gonna have an admin that has full control over your website and controls your alarms and everything. Then you have users that are just read only. You just look at all the data that you can see. Then you can have some that are users and can acknowledge alarms, and everything's role based. And that'll be part of the training that you get. Whoever's in charge or whoever you guys decide is going to be your admin and users and everything like that, we'll have sit down training with you and we'll go over everything and teach you how to use your system. So everything, if you've got, most companies have GIS data, so we can overlay any of your data, your pipes, your manholes, any of that stuff onto our application, and you can see your lift stations and everything on the map platform that is on the cloud application. All data points are trendable, and we keep all data. We have got every bit of data that we've ever had since 2000. So you can actually go back and trend 3 years worth of data, 5 years worth of data, however you want to do it. And that's where the nuts and bolts of it is, where you can actually look at long-term data and see how things are trending. That way you can see problems before, or notice that things are happening, and you can try to do preventative maintenance on it. The other cool thing is, this is something I have to do, is there's notes in here, so you can do voice to text over your phone. Like if you go out and work on something, you can do a note and speak into your phone and say what you did, when you did it, and why you did it. And now that is established with whatever location you're at, and then the notes are searchable. So you can have a database of all your notes, because I'm the world's worst. I have a notebook I write everything in, and then you're having to flip through pages trying to find where you had notes. But this will have all your notes on one page, and you can actually take pictures if you have issues or something on the location, and it will attach it to that site too. We can build HMI screens however best suits you guys, however you want to see it. Like when the pumps are running, they turn green. When they're off, they're gray. You can see alarm statuses, still statuses, and then you'll be able to see your weather levels. When you're on your laptop or computer, desktop, you can see it tabular data if you want to see everything at once instead of seeing an HMI graphic. I like to see all the data instead of the graphics, but that's how you want to see it. Like you can see your device graph trending, you can double stack, you can put multiple graphs on one page so you can extrapolate different data points. Our reliability, we use what we call a multi-carrier SIM in our cellular device, our modem gateway. It is all the major brands, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, US Cellular, and then it runs. Whoever has the best signal is who it goes to, and then there's a logarithm running in the background. When the signal degrades to a certain point, it'll pick up the next best signal. They say it's instantaneous, but that's not true. It takes about 45 seconds to a minute and a half for it to switch over. But we have, because we do oil and gas, we have double redundancy. We are live in San Antonio, and we are live in Chicago. We use Azure, Microsoft Azure as our servers. So we're live in 2 places. If one somehow failed, it would fail directly over to the other one. That's where you get your built-in redundancy. We have dual services that do our emails, we have dual services that do our text messages, so if one fails, you gotta back it up. Like I said, all the data's in two different places, so you have redundancy. We are very upfront with our customers. When you log in, we have a status page. If there, for any reason, is a problem, we update it right there immediately whenever you log onto your page. We have, everything is encrypted. If the city has an IT department that wants to do multi-factor authentication, we can do that. So when you log on, it goes through your authenticator, and that way everything is more secure. We can do single sign-on, and we also do audit testing from University of Tulsa has a really good cybersecurity program. It's probably about the fourth best in the country. Every summer we have a bounty that if they can take our code and break it, then they get a monetary, I think it's $2,500. So most of them try it. Yet to be hacked on it. And that is it on that. I don't know if y'all have our breakdown on what the costs were and recurring costs.
Before we go there, can you tell us how it could benefit the city?
Okay, so,
Application of the
alright. One way it can benefit the city is we're doing 5-minute updates. You have near real-time data that lets you know when you have an issue. We are not proprietary, so we don't use an RTE, so it's not proprietary. We use basically off the shelf. You can order from multiple different points, so we don't want to be the bottleneck. And the capabilities of the future, since we're using a programmable logic controller, that you can do, it's expandable in the future. So if you get more things, we can bring more data in, you can do more control, and you can remotely control. Because right now, it's going to be set up for monitoring only, but the hardware is there for in the future. If you want to do more, get more out of it, it's absolutely possible.
Is this for water?
It is for the for the lift stations primarily, but it can be,
For the sewer?
it can be expanded into water as well.
Yes, sir.
So, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Did you contact the mayor? Did the mayor contact you?
I did not contact the mayor.
This was done, that trip that we went on to Kentucky, this is one of the things they were talking about there, and it's something that, Will brought us when we got back. It is something just like when we do we're looking at doing, things for security at to keep the lift stations working, like generators and things like that for the future. This is also something that can help us not have pump go down and then the first notification be when the neighbor sees it running down the road. But the first notification would be within minutes of it going down, we would get an alarm and be able to go out and check on it.
Basically, it automates the needs for notification so that in case something goes wrong with it, any of the system.
And it also, and I'm not trying to steal your job, but
Yes, sir.
some of the things that they told us about when we went through this originally was it can even test load levels on the pump to tell you when you've got a pump that's working right now, but it's struggling and it's something that you may need to start troubleshooting in advance.
Yeah, you can put a amp load on there and we can read the amperage of each leg coming off the pumps.
And when we get our lines up to Scissortail or any other of those new subdivisions that may be going up in that way, like the new addition, are we gonna have additional pumps, lift stations?
There actually is a lift station right now at Scissortail that would be likely tied into your system. So it will be added into what you have listed right here on this
That's what I was
proposal.
gonna say, so if we add more, does the cost then goes up, correct?
Yes, sir. You will have more hardware, and then the monitoring fees will go up. Yes, sir.
I guess the way I look at it is more of a preventive prescription for the units that we have, the pump station, the lift station and pumps, in case something happen with them. We don't want things go wrong and continue, then we find out that there's an issue with it. We like to react to it quickly, and we cannot be everywhere at the same time, obviously. To check on these all the time and make sure they're not all right. I think it's good if we can afford it, just have to see cost-wise can be afforded.
This is something that's considered our upgrade and expansion of our system capabilities, so it can actually be handled through our impact fees.
So this fee, that is that annual?
No, sir. The one that you're seeing here, that is your hardware cost to put in the hardware. And if you look at, on the back of this one, the last page, your annual fee is $5,904, $5,904 a year for the 6 sites right now.
Yeah, we have one time cost for hardware.
So then what's the 2,500?
The $2,500 is a fee for your, the setting up of the website, the security, the training.
So we're actually talking 46,000.
Well, okay, so the way we do it, because tariffs and all the other nonsense that's going on right now, there's a contingency fee. That is 25% of the total of the hardware, and labor install. And that will not be touched unless it has to be. So your actual, if everything goes right, I believe it's around $34,000
We still
total.
have to pay the contingency fee also.
No, sir. Not unless you use it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's,
Because it says estimated project cost, hardware install, first year standard communications, 46,820.
Right, that is what you would approve, but if everything goes as planned and goes right, we're not touching the contingency. So it would come in at the 8665 less.
So what is,
Sorry. I want to make a statement, I hope you understand. If is the biggest little word.
Yes, sir, it is.
my question was,
It's just like a seminar.
my question is, what is that contingency? What makes it go in effect or not?
Okay, so say you needed extra hardware or like Unistrut or a mount or different hardware, something that we didn't plan for up front, that's where we go to. Or most of the time, like if we're doing a lot of programming in the PLC, like if you were turning things on and off and it's based off a relay levels and stuff like that, if something happened and you had to rewrite all the program, that's where the contingency fee would come in. There's many times that we go out, quote a job, we go with the customer, do site visits, do everything, and then when we actually get there, it's not working, it does not work. I'm doing a job right now up at Craig County 3 in Oklahoma. We did everything like we're supposed to. The customer board president said this tower works off of this pump station, and half their customers are pressure based off the line. They do not feed from the tank. So we cannot run off the tower level. It has to be pressure based. So let's just rewrite the logic. It wasn't planned for it to begin with.
Well, thank you for putting the contingency fee in, because when we were reviewing this bill, we didn't have a contingency fee that we were aware of. Stuff just came up.
Yes, sir. We try to plan, that's the whole reason we do it, especially with the tariffs. You know, a couple months ago we had tariffs, now we don't have tariffs Right, and you're approving it and hopefully we come in under budget. So, that's the plan.
But that's the maximum we would be,
Yes, sir.
than that.
Yes, sir.
If we decide to do that, can we get a list of things that contingency could fix?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can do that.
Any other questions?
No, I guess it's some members definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is our planning report.
Good evening. Planning Commission met last week. We had two different items we were kind of finishing up. But, the most notable kind of item we're working on was the Scissor Hill subdivision phase 4. That's been voted to move on conditionally. They've got a few connectivity things and like engineering items. It's mostly all been addressed, but they are actually already working on a partial grading permit to do everything except for the water and sewer. So planning commission voted to move that on, under staff review. So we've got the preliminary plat for the Trillium subdivision. This is the subdivision that is out on Murdoch Road that goes around it. So they've submitted everything, and this is the one you might remember passing the PZD, the Plan Zone District for it. So they've got their plat in, really stays in line with everything that they propose on the PZD. They are looking at adding some additional property to it, so that's something we're kind of working through as we move along that area, so.
How many acres do they have now?
What now?
How many acres do they have now?
So right now, the original property was 80, and then they added another like 15 to 20, and they're looking at adding some more, so it's, there's a lot of movement out there in the area. But the original property that they bought was 80. Now, like I said, Trillium also owns the Agawam property that was on the corner, that's not part of this, so. I mean, there's a lot of movement going on.
Is this going up or down?
Yes, sir.
West?
So this is going up Murdoch, where Murdoch hits the first part right, and it goes and turns hard left. There's that 80 was the original property, and it kind of went across the road, also that they get that road kind of bisected part of it. And then there's some property to the south. And so they're looking at, some additional property to the southeast.
How many homes per acre? How many homes we gonna have on there?
Well, I mean, the PZD has a variable, when we passed that, so there were a mix of lot sizes. So there was, some larger, half, 3/4 acre lots, there was some 1/4 acre lots, and then I think there was maybe 2 lot sizes that were 0.20 to maybe just a little bit like 0.18.
So how many lots we got all together right now?
Altogether, out there right now, I think the original one was around 175, something like that.
I think I was in that meeting the other night, and one of the concerns I think that folks had, and rightfully, and I think we need to look at it, is traffic, how does it impact, do we need a light there, do we not need a light there? That's just to bring that up. Obviously, we wanna make sure we have subdivision thing grow, the growth is something coming regardless of the measure. The fact is that I'd like to see, we're a little bit measure about it and make sure that there is some sort of study, we don't want to create it. People coming in, traffic, we have already issued at 112 right now, that we're working with stoplights, and I'd like to be more proactive to this one, rather than reacting to it. That's just my opinion.
Well, the Trillium, if you remember, one of their proposals is to try and work with the county to go ahead and pave that dirt road all the way up to, like by the Evening Star Elementary. I think it's partially paved down, so they're already looking at some of that. And even with some of the property that they're looking at, they're hoping to maybe look at rerouting Evening Star Road and maybe trying to put an Evening Star Road connection back there. So that would be kind of a faster east-west right there in that area too. So that's a very long-term plan, obviously, to do something of that magnitude.
But anyway, that's just my thought on it. I think I'm not against it, I'm just concerned about the traffic amount that's gonna come into that. And are they gonna put it, you know, maybe they, if you can't get a stoplight, have a left and a right turn and then, you know, kind of divide the traffic somehow.
Yeah.
Where are you thinking it's stuff like? I mean, oh, okay,
260.
They're gonna be, I mean, if you do.
It's gonna be bad.
A lot of buses goes there, and nowadays it's gonna happen.
Well, one of the things that RDOT proposed in discussing some of that with them was actually realigning where RDOT turns out onto 264 on that northern side. We talked about that with the Trillium Group on the Aguilar property, you know, as we move to that, we might look at, you know, how it aligns and maybe realign it a little bit and looking at, you know, adding some capacity for like a little turning lane, those kind of things, so. Absolutely.
You know, when I talked to RDOT about doing a study there, one of the things he mentioned was that, with that being just over the crest of the hill and then a bend, that if that could be realigned and come out right at the crest of the hill, you would be able to cut better sight lines in both directions. And it also would move it from being directly across the road from, the other
Ferrara.
Yeah, Ferrara. And so you wouldn't have such a bottleneck right there together competing for that same turn.
So that means no stoplight.
I mean, that, what I'm really thinking is that sometimes having subdivision opens up new fund to be doing things. So if we need to do something and demand it from builder or whoever, that's the time for it, rather than later on. It's really now time for it, and we might be a good thing for the area actually, if we could resolve some of the traffic issues that existed by planning on it now rather than waiting. So because when the builder builds, that's the time to work with them to see how we can improve the whole process. So it could be win and win for everybody.
Right.
I have a question about these subdivisions and any other new ones. Since we're looking at a sewer rate now, our water rate based on, and a sewer rate, the sewer rate based on water usage. Are these developers letting people know that end up buying these houses that if they put in a pool, they need a second meter?
That's in our policy now.
Yeah, it's usually not up to the developer. I mean, it would be, because the developers don't always build the homes either. You know, sometimes they'll sell them and build homes in there. So it's kind of hard to say it's up to the developer to do that. It's our policy and, you know, really following us, I would think.
Okay, so if they come in and get a permit to build a pool, then they're notified.
I would believe so.
When they get a building permit to build a house, we have to do a double setter. And they may not use the other side, but if they have a pool down the line, or they bring in a sprinkler system or whatever, they can get a meter for that other side.
Okay. So this might be a better, this might somewhat answer that question a little better. Our specs call for a double setter now, right? Okay, so our specs per lot call for double setter. So in the past, what we've done and what has happened, and it was common, it wasn't uncommon, was that we would, like, you know, if your water line is on this side of the street, you run one service line across the road, you'd hit a single meter box with a double setter, that double setter would feed 2 houses. So now, our new specs say every house has that double setter, essentially.
Okay.
So each house is already going to have the capacity and capabilities of having their service line for water, and then they'll have a separate meter that could be just for irrigation or pools or et cetera. And that benefits them too, because then they're not paying the sewer piece on the secondary.
Thanks, I was not aware of that.
Yes, that's our new policy, I don't know exactly when it's going to place, but recently.
Thank you.
Yep. So, the other item we had was rezoning for Boss Park, the Ford and, 264 intersection out here. We had a public hearing for that. The applicant requested to table that. Well, both of these. The Trillium also requested to table it this time because we were just still moving through it, but we still wanted to talk about it. So Boss Park, same thing. Applicants requested to table it this time. They still have some things to work through. But we had a good meeting and discussed all that. Biggest thing that will affect y'all is I am hoping next month you are going to get the master street plan and future land use maps. We're working on those. We are essentially done with them. There might be some minor tweaks that we do as we move through it one last time, but we feel like we've got a really good product. We've looked into the adjacent, cities, what they have. We've shown what their road widths, what their road, their streets and roads that connect to us are called out as, if it's a collector or arterial things. And we try to match up those, or at least match up a comparable right of way. So, the only other thing is just the general updates. We're still working on the incorporating the downtown master plan into the vision plan. The future land use and master streets, like I just said, we're essentially ready. We're going to bring those to y'all hoping next month. Planning Commission, we'll see them at the work session next week. We can make some last minute tweaks before their meeting at the beginning of July. And then the other map is the active transportation plan. We're kind of overlaying it onto the master street plan and just making sure that things align. We looked at the old active transportation plan and saw where we had some trails or routes, and we've moved some of them down based on maybe some road locations we'd like and things like that. So some minor alterations to that. But other than that, I think that's really all I have, and nothing new for all this month. So.
The master plan looked pretty good. I was there looking at it and I guess I saw it firsthand and asked some question. And I think that looks good. They were doing a really good job on it.
Thank you.
It was good.
Thank you.
One suggestion I have, David, I don't know, I've told that to Mr. Mayor, I want to suggest it again. If possible, I think now as the city has grown, if you could go back showing your stuff on the screen, particularly during planning commission or city council meeting, so when we talk about a subdivision, we can see it actually like other cities are doing it, because we used to do that. Then we had a problem with the cable, and now the cable is fixed on it. So
Definitely, more than you on the screen.
it would be a lot.
I'm usually getting done here and looking at Google Maps and it is 264, not 412.
For the position.
How many houses is going in the Trillium? Again, I know we talked about it before.
So,
It's like 20 or 30 or how many houses?
what?
The Trillium plan, how many lots? Do you know offhand? Do you remember?
The number of lots in the original plan, I think, was 157.
157?
It's something like that. I told Believe MC there was like 175 residences because some of those lots were the mansion style attached, like threeplex kind of
Pocket homes.
pocket homes and things
I
like
don't know how
that.
they're gonna fit in maybe in there, but okay. Guess that's why I voted against it. I don't like it. I was putting in a new, change the whole complexion of that area, maybe put in a stoplight, the world doesn't need more stoplights, that's for sure. I mean, we need one over here, but I don't wanna be like Rogers and put in 100 stoplights everywhere.
My concern is the number of people that, if 175.
I mean, with 100, probably need it,
At least they have 9 to.
It's too much. Too much for that
You're
area.
around about it.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is the liquor tax, and I know you brought that up, and have you talked to Justin more about that, what you want done there?
I want it eliminated. it's a waste of time, and I think you're nickel and diming your business owners who sell alcohol. This ordinance that you were provided was 2016-6 is incorrect.
Yeah, it's the wrong
It's
word.
actually ordinance 2016-7 is the correct ordinance that you need to look at. This ordinance makes business owners who sell liquor by the drink to pay a 4% tax every month. So when this ordinance went into effect in 2016, the city has collected only $5,000 since then for this tax. We're talking minimal amounts of money. And what I'm having to do is I'm literally having to call these businesses and collect money. And,
Then it's only they're paying it. I mean, that's not much money.
well, and the thing
We
is
should get-
we're talking $70 a month, $16 a month, and we have to take their word for what they say they sell, which I can't go back and ask the DFNA. I can't ask the sales tax to see.
You're in a tough position.
It's an honor system.
Yeah.
So you're really not making enough in this tax to even make it worth it.
What businesses are selling?
There's 2 restaurants, well, there's a restaurant and a golf course. And those are the only 2 that
Red
pay.
Ash Golf Course, and is it Pasadena? I mean,
Yeah.
it's, I looked at your, you haven't been there yet, but it doesn't look like there's so much alcohol actually.
We got a bar.
When did they split that?
It's been there for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so, sounds like we don't get what they owe us actually.
Yeah, how do they go? I'm sorry.
Maybe instead of killing the ordinance, maybe we should enforce it better. I mean, because
And Chief
we
has
should
done
do
that, I
it
mean,
for ways to raise revenue. I mean, everybody wants taxes alcohol. I mean, I don't know a city who doesn't tax alcohol.
and what happens is if they don't pay this by July the 1st, then the city does not issue them a business license. So, but again, we've seen in the past that they'll run a business without a business license anyway. So I've spoke to Chief a couple of times, and he's went out and enforced it as well to say, hey, we need to collect with the past payments that's due. But when you go out and you send the police chief out there and myself out there, and I'm going out there every quarter to try to collect money, we're talking maybe $200-300 over a quarter of a time frame. Is it really worth my time or the chief's time to go out and collect that much money?
I've got a little different thoughts on it. Personally, I take issue with rewarding someone for their refusal to do something. That's kind of to me like if everyone just decided to speed, we won't pay our speeding ticket, so we can just keep doing it and they'll take it off the books. And we're a growing city and we will have more restaurants in time. And I don't think, and that will become a bigger value in time.
Other cities,
So my question.
Yeah, well, and that, we've got a guy that used to be with ABC here. Do you know how other cities do it and what are?
I don't know how the other cities collect that money for that sales tax, that liquor by the drink tax. I know Rogers has it, I know Fayetteville has it. I don't know what they do to collect that. I can absolutely find out. I just know they have that tax on there. I mean, there should be a way, because they have to pay, the state has a similar tax as well, a liquor by the drink tax, that they have to pay. And of course, the state can hang, their alcohol permit on that, so if they don't pay it, they suspend their license, they can't sell any booze. We have a city permit that goes with that, that's hand in hand with the state permit. And yes, we can hold their city permit hostage, and then write them a city ordinance ticket for selling alcohol without a license, a city ordinance ticket for every day they do it. That would be the enforcement side of it. Now, the liquor, drink stuff, I think when we passed that back 10 years ago, I know we said that they would pay the treasurer, but it didn't say, or recorder, collected or how that works.
And it doesn't even have a date of when they're supposed to pay it.
Right.
So I just
It
kinda-
wasn't in the ordinance. I mean, if we amended that ordinance, to say whoever is gonna collect it, goes and collects it at the end of the month, every 2 months, every 3 months, whatever the case may be.
That would be,
And then have a dedicated position to do that, whoever that may be, whether it's me or whoever.
And I talked to Justin about it, he said that this language in the statute where it requires you to collect it is primarily the same language that requires you to basically be, the one that deposits all of the taxes and things. It doesn't mean that you personally, and it may not be that you're personally the right person to be out collecting it. It may be that we do that through the front office. There's some things that he puts in place to help us. It may be that we do need to amend the ordinance rather than abolish the ordinance.
If we do amend this thing, and we do have a dedicated position to collect this, or whatever the case may be, I think we need to educate, and I'd be more than glad to do that, the golf course and Ostafina, and explain to them, this is what you gotta do, this is when you gotta do it, this is who you gotta get it to. Period. And if you don't, here is what's gonna happen. And I think if we amend it to have a little bite to our bark, that might get that taken care of, and it'd be easier, if that's the route you wanna go.
I don't know if I'm mistaken. When I first started in the service, I had to go out and collect
Sure.
tax, liquor. In some places out very nervous about that.
I'm sure.
We ought to be able to develop some kind of form that we can put online, they can print, fill out the necessary information, and attach a check and send it in.
I've done
And
that.
give them a deadline.
I did that. I've created a form for both of those businesses to show the month of, and then the date that it's due. So I made that date due on the 20th of every month, which is the same date that the sales tax is due. So that would make it an easy date for them to remember.
And they don't get it.
So,
Then we penalize them.
yeah, there's
And
no,
that's just this, we
To
gotta
stick a penalty on there. Sure. And if it goes so far, you take some kind of other enforcement. Sure. We have to figure that out.
we have to put
If it's
a
the
minute to have some sort of.
Pull the deal and stop it from operating in the city, then that's what we have to do.
but it doesn't say that in the ordinance.
No, it would have to be amended to do it.
The ordinance doesn't say anything like that.
Right, it would have to be amended.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So
saying.
that's what I'm saying, that's up to you guys, what you want to do.
I mean, Mike,
If you want to put some bite to the bark, then that's the way to do
you
it.
gotta have a fight to the ball.
one other thing is that I think the sales tax, I think we carry someone, when they send their sales tax, if they could get an audit, and they have to provide the DSR, which is the summary of the money that came in and went out. Now, I don't know if we can or not, I suggest that we could put something that if they could get audited, they want someone, so. And now, but like company, I'm not saying anybody, I'm just saying that's all.
These places, per the ABC, have to keep all their receipts for 3 years on site. So it may be a shoe box, it may be a big box, rubber bands. I've had to do an audit when I was with the ABC bar, and it is horrible. I don't ever want to do that again, because you're going through itty bitty pieces of paper and separating them by year, by month, by day, and then trying to figure out what it was on the receipt. It's a mess.
All I wanna say, if other cities are doing it,
Sure.
we gotta figure out what they do, and we don't need very new wheel. If they're doing it, they're able to collect some tax. And I don't think it's really Kim's job to go, I really don't think it's your job to go collect it. Right?
Sure.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just the way the way that thing was written was they are to pay her that position. But it doesn't say when, where, how.
Yeah.
It just says they have to pay.
I mean, it can be voluntary, but, like, we don't need to go send Kim over there or anybody, but it could be voluntary, but the bite is, or the teeth is, you know, the audit and the fines and the threat of shutting down the license.
Believe
So
it
the
or not,
audit's important.
some people, maybe not these two, but if the city keeps growing and I'm gone, I mean, it doesn't matter that I'm here or not, but if the city grows like in the future and really gets a lot of restaurants in, which I don't know, some of those people are just gonna flat refuse to do it. So you've got to have something with some teeth in it
Yeah,
to get them.
you do.
I mean,
If that's the route you guys wanna go, that's.
I mean, render unto Caesar what is Caesar.
I'll do whatever. Doesn't bother me one way or the other. But
If we're gonna collect tax, we gotta make sure we have something that we can enforce it. That's something. If we don't, then we don't. I think we need to just be careful. The city is growing, we can't just,
If we don't pay the water bill, you can get cut off.
Right.
So, I mean, you gotta have something with some teeth.
I definitely don't think Kim needs to go collect tax.
No, I think, I can agree with that also.
That's a bad mistake.
I mean, we're pretty fortunate that we know the owners of both places. So it's not a dangerous situation like you were saying.
No.
But it could be.
If the city
It
grows.
absolutely could be, and I totally
Yeah.
agree. She doesn't need to
Could
be.
be adversarial at least.
Sure.
But when we do this ordinance and we do things, we do it in a overview it at the long term, not just for who's there
Exactly.
now. We're not speaking just
You know,
about these two.
when we did this, like she said, it was in 2015, that, Benton County went in 2011, November 2011. I remember that date very well. And I was with ABC at the time. And, so when I came on here, they just made it easier to get liquor by the drink. Before, it was just like Sunday sales, you had to get a petition, you had to get a certain percentage of the registered voters to sign a petition, get it on the ballot to vote it, and then I called it the Rogers bill because once Rogers went wet, they changed that, how that worked, and they said, now if certain population, or I can't remember, a certain number of permits, then you could vote liquor by the drink from the council. And so I think when we passed it, we weren't real sure everything, what it entailed, when it passed. And I helped write that thing. And so, yeah, we should have put some sort of enforcement behind it, some penalty, and we can fix it. Or you guys can fix it. Hey, you're the one to stay here. You could have moved.
I know.
Next item is the EFT payment policy. Do you have anything to address?
So what's
I do.
Okay.
Before we move on, what's the action item on that?
I've made a note to get with Justin about reviewing and seeing what other cities do and to review for, amendment.
Okay, I'm good with that. Sorry, I
Thank you.
apologize. I just wanted to make sure we had a clear direction. Okay.
So on that EFT ordinance, we usually pass this every so many years, and the last one that we passed was in 2022. And when we pass this, we always attach a copy of the Arkansas Legislative Audit Information System's best practices. So this tells us what we can and cannot do on a financial and how we can do it for audit purposes. Well, in October of 2024, Legislative Audit came out with a new one that needs to be added to and updated, same kind of thing. We need to update our ordinance to show that this new legislative audit for October of 2024. When we do that updated ordinance, I want to also add a couple of vendors that we want to approve to be able to pay through electronic transfers. I don't want to pay them through an ACH. I don't want to pay them through the bank. I want to pay them through their online banking, which allows us to do that if it's approved through this ordinance with this attached to it.
Who are they?
Those vendors that I'm requesting that we pay are,
How?
yeah, there are monthly bills like SWEPCO, Carroll Electric, Black Hills Energy, WEX, our city cell phones. So these are your monthly reoccurring. So what's happening is we'll pay these bills, and then they get stuck in the mail, and
The worst is the power company.
Yes.
They will sometimes come in with, and I mean, they hit the post office 4 days before they're due, and next month they'll be there 2 weeks before they're due, and you just have no way of knowing what they're gonna do.
I think that's a great idea.
so we just need to update that ordinance for our audit purposes, so then that way, because that's the first thing an auditor will look at to make sure that the council has updated it from their new version, and we haven't updated it in a while. And add those vendors into that ordinance to let us pay those online as well.
I think it's a great idea. I do.
Anything
Yeah,
else?
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it on that.
Next item is franchise agreements, and
Fixed assets.
I'll skip fixed assets, yes, fixed assets, sorry.
So the auditor has asked that we remove a fixed asset on our list. It's a 2013 flatbed trailer. It's nowhere to be found. We don't know where it's at. We've looked everywhere, and I had even called a couple of our previous employees who work for Public Works to see if they knew what happened to it. It's nowhere. So our auditor is requesting that we remove the 2013 MEBT flat trailer, and that's valued at $5,000 on our asset list.
So we have a flatbed trailer, how long?
It doesn't say how long it is. I have the serial
That's
number,
missing.
but the auditor couldn't physically put his eyes on it, and nobody in the Public Works knows where it's at either. So we either need to,
So the logical thing is to assume it's been stolen.
nobody knows where it's at. So we need to remove it from our asset list.
No clue, no leads, nothing.
Because when an auditor does an audit, they don't audit every single piece of equipment. It's a random, and this one just happened to be pulled at the last audit.
I'm just wondering how a flatbed trailer disappeared.
Rolled off.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
I'm for removing
So we need to remove that from the list per the auditor. Also, something that was brought to our attention with J-Mark is we had several computers that have been transferred, or had been replaced by new computers, and that was approved by the council. So there's actually 11 computers that were replaced just since the first of the year. So we can either pay J-Mark to come in and destroy all the hard drives and destroy the hard drives, or we can pay J-Mark to come in and wipe the computers clean, and then we can sell those computers back to the employees if we choose to do that. J-Mark is requesting that if we do that, the computers are only gonna be $100, and that's what it's gonna cost J-Mark to go in and wipe the computers clean. So either we destroy them for $100, or we go in and wipe the hard drives clean with nothing on them, and then we can sell them back to the employees for $100, which is the cost of what it's gonna take to wipe them clean.
What if they don't want to buy them?
If they don't wanna buy them, then
We trash them.
yeah, then we'll trash them, but we're still gonna have to pay $100 whether we wipe them clean or whether
We don't.
we don't.
I said, why would we?
So,
My concern there, and I had talked to them this past week, I personally would like to see them destroyed, just simply because you never know. I used to work on copiers, and I had a hard drive that the military guidelines at that time was that it had to overwrite it 7 times at the end of every day's business. And I got called in because of the code for hard drive code, and put my test chart on there and got somebody else's, I got half of my test chart from somebody else's print from the day before.
but
And
if J-Mark can guarantee that everything is wiped clean, and we can benefit the employees and sell them back to the employees for $100, I mean,
I just don't know how you guarantee that, and with where some of these have been, you've got, confidential information on them about employees, medical stuff, and different things like that, I would feel more comfortable if they were just destroyed. I will do either one.
That's a council
whatever the
decision. I'll do
council
whatever.
chooses.
If we decide to destroy them, then I will have to collect all of these, and then I will take them to a company locally, and then it's kinda like when they shred papers. I'll take them
There's
to the
gotta be a
company,
witness.
and there, I'll be a witness, I'll sign off on it, but it's cheaper for me to take it to them and drop them into the machine, and then they just grind them up, and then that way it'll save us more money than them coming out here. So, whatever the council decides to do, you just,
That's $100 each.
either way, either way.
What do you think?
How old are these computers?
I don't have a date on it, but these are the ones that were old enough that they could not upload the Windows 11 on.
No.
So
At
they
least
won't.
5 or 6 years at
Yeah.
least.
And they're not serviceable. They were put in shortly after I became mayor, so they are right around.
About 6 years old.
I hate to create more work for Kim, but it's gonna not be handy. I think we need to destroy it as confidential information, and they can wipe it, but still they can some.
No guarantee.
I'm good either way.
Store.
Yeah, probably the best idea.
Okay.
Too much value. List, yeah. Because we could get sued.
Yeah.
You know, we could get legal.
Get the information.
Clean.
And I have a couple of old computers that are still in my office from before. I would like to throw in, I mean, if y'all decide to.
Just toss them. and take
Yeah, I'd
it.
like to pitch them in there as well, so that way they're not taking up two filing cabinets in my office too, so.
Yeah. Throw it in
And
the.
mine's not quite ready yet. They told me that I needed to keep it for about 2 weeks to be sure everything's working.
Yeah.
And since I was in the middle of that budget for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I haven't actually turned it off yet and
Yeah,
stopped using
no,
it.
that's fine. I mean, I would encourage that, I mean, I don't wanna do it immediately. I kinda wanna hang tight for a couple of months and make sure that the employees' computers are running smoothly, and there's no issues, they don't need to pull them. But the ones that I do have are sitting in my office with a post-it note with their name on it, so if you have to, you can go back and take stuff off of it. But I just wanna make sure that there's a smooth transition before we decide to shred.
Makes sense.
Can I go back in just a second to the missing piece of?
Yeah.
Do we have an audit in place? Do we know how long that's been missing?
I don't know exactly how long it's been missing.
Do we have an audit in place that every once in a while we audit to make sure our
We-
assets are in place and not missing?
I know when the auditors are in, we routinely go through and do asset list renewal. And to be sure what's there, what's no longer of value, sometimes they fall off because of value. Sometimes this is first time I'm aware of one falling off because we couldn't put hands on it.
They don't ever fall off for value unless the council removes them off the asset list.
When they get below a certain value, they don't belong in the asset list, and we've been told to take a couple of things off due to that.
I think we need to have. a
Approval by the
process.
council. I can't just go in and take anything off the asset list unless the council approves it.
Well, yeah, we did bring it in and vote on it, but it was still, that was the reason it was being taken off.
I think we need to have a process in place that every once in a while, I don't know if it's 6 months, every 3 months, or whatever we do it. Complete audit on what we got, and how they did or not, and what that process, who's responsible for doing. It's really important that we.
Have a list of all.
We do have the list.
But
Like
that
our-
checks the list.
That's what I'm saying. We don't-
Our asset list, like, is only anything over, I think it's 5,000. So a small equipment that we may have purchased, like generator or something like that, it's not on our asset list. Or small equipment, I don't have a small equipment list either. So anything over 5,000 is on the asset list. Anything under 5,000, if it's walked off, we don't know.
Yeah. At least let's get the big stuff, at least we know that.
A lot of small stuff wears out and we throw it away and replace
That's
it
okay.
periodically. But the larger, the 5,000 is what's on the asset list and what we track. The other stuff is something that we've,
So a small generator just disappeared, nobody knows. That's insane.
we would know it. They use those periodically, that's not something you go back in there and.
We'll use a trailer periodically too.
Yeah, that one's different, and I've never heard of that happening here before, but like pump sprayers, we had a couple of pump sprayers that just wore out, and we replaced them and we threw them away. If you've got it on an asset list, there's a process to remove it from the list, it becomes kind of ours. On the five, I mean, that's why the state does it on 5,000 or more and requires it. But if you start doing that on everything, then you're talking, I mean, a lot of things are like supply.
But we don't have a process for 5,000 here. I mean, this was a $5,000 piece. I think we need to start some sort of process, in my opinion,
And that's not a problem.
Just like the new computers that we have, they are below our asset list, but individually they're below our asset list, but the invoice itself is way above our asset list. And to give you a great example of when Gary purchased the refrigerator for the fire department, the refrigerator itself was below the asset list, but then when you add on the sales tax, then it went above the asset cost. Well, I didn't put that on our asset list because the refrigerator itself was below the asset value. Well, the auditor said, no, you have to combine the total bill of the receipt, taxes and all. So we went back in and we added the refrigerator onto the asset list. So with these new computers, I have to do the same thing with that individually, but with everything together in one invoice, it went over our limit.
So I know state is 5,000, like if we want to go to 4,000, we can by 4,000. So
I think we used to have it at 2,500.
Yeah, it used to be at 2,500, state used to have it at 2,500 too.
why don't we go back to 2,500 or so?
That's fine, I know that the reason that the state quit doing that is because of the sheer volume and stuff. But, I don't mind going to 20,000.
Yeah, we just have to have a process.
Just remember, if you do a $2,500 asset limit, literally everything that we purchase at the city, which could be a desk, it could be anything that has to be, even in this community building, will have to be on an asset list.
If it's bundled.
If it's bundled,
If like our refrigerator wasn't a $5,000 refrigerator, but I had it bundled with the dishwasher, microwave, it's bundled package. So it's like $700.
yeah. So just remember that, so if you bundle anything, pretty much anything that you purchase over 2,500 will have to go on that list. That's why the council bumped it to 5,000 originally, several years ago, was because it just got to the point with so many things on the list that was,
So many chairs, so many things.
Yes.
Making it all.
yes. So then what's gonna happen is like these TVs, or not, maybe not necessarily that TV, but we had TVs that was purchased back in 2015. That was astronomical amount of money. They've been on our asset list forever. And I don't even know what happened to those TVs.
They're in the old firehouse.
Yeah.
So,
Next to work.
so yeah, I would like to ask the council, when we do this asset list, we need to either use those monitors or we need to get rid of those
And
monitors.
I don't know that we can get rid of, because they were monitors, they were not actual TVs.
Right.
And I'm not even sure that they were used then. So I don't think those are actually, some of them may not even be functional after sitting somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. They were almost 10 years old when we bought them. So at this point, we need to either, because they're still on the asset list, we need to get them off there because,
One of them is in David's office, and the other one is in the lobby.
Yeah,
maybe
there's one in
And they're
there.
about 45 pounds each.
if,
They're heavy.
or more than that.
Where that weighed about 5 pounds.
Because I know some of them, when the community building flooded, one of them, or two of them was back here standing in water.
And we're all sitting over there right now.
I just like process. I think if we put a process in place and audit it, and things that we are not using, we want to take it out, then let's just do that. I recommend that. But as far as the audit goes, I really think it needs to be audited. There is a process, and I think the department head should be responsible for those parts that the, for example, police department has computer and stuff, that should be on their asset list, and then they need to, when it gets audited, they go over those issues. It doesn't have to be all in one, it can be breakdown, then bring back up together.
Maybe do like a $2,500 small equipment, asset list that doesn't necessarily fall underneath your legislative audit asset list. And then that's something that when, if anything over $2,500, I would say even $2,500 to $5,000, and that limbo needs to go on that,
Yeah.
a small equipment list.
I think department heads should be responsible for keeping track of that, and it's, that's how I'm used to it, that's.
That makes sense.
Okay, anything else? Franchise agreements. And I know I've got 3 of them sitting in my drawer, and Justin made a comment about these need to go at a certain time, because based on, and I never quite got why we couldn't just move forward with them. I kept pounding him and about doing it not just for the utilities, but we need to be doing it for all the large dumpster companies as well, because they're taking them up and down our roads.
I mean, if you're doing it for cards and you did it for waste management, you need to be doing it for all.
But Cards doesn't pay it on the large dumpsters, they just pay it on the household, for the fact that when, it used to be on all of them, and then the contract was for everything, and then when one of the companies got purchased, it created what they considered a monopoly, and so they weren't allowed to do the large for a while, and at that point it opened the door to everyone. And because of that, that genie's kind of out of the bottle, but we should be charging them all the franchise fee.
We're
And
missing out.
so-
We're missing out on a large amount of money that we could be charging on franchise.
Yeah, it's not minor when you put it all together. It's, especially with all the construction and those large dumpsters, and when you get into some of the utilities, one of them, I think he said the franchise fee is nearly 30 years old, and the others are more, I mean, it has to do with when they came to the city. We've got 1 or 2 that claim that they're riding on the coattails of a related company, but not their own. Carol, one of the IT providers, or web, what is it, the host providers that is coming through with cabling and stuff, is one of the co-ops, but it's not our local co-op, but they're doing it through that co-op as a kind of as a partner, and claim, and I think they need to be standing on their own, and we should be collecting from everyone that's bringing those things through.
I know we've talked about it for several months, and I've just not heard anything updated on it, so it needed to be brought back to the council so we could get that ball rolling again.
Right, and I've challenged Justin to actually go beyond 3 and to get it all
Thank you.
done, and I do appreciate you bringing that back up. Coffee shop, please. It is in here. And that is something that Justin wanted me to bring to your attention. It is coming up on renewal time, and they are aware that we are doing a new lease. And he wants you to review it, look it over. If you have questions, you can contact him. If you have different prices that you think that we should be charging, have that discussion with him, because we are going to get this together pretty quickly and get it in their hands so they can review it as well. The people that are leasing the coffee shop. But we do want to be sure that it's not a giveaway like it was before, and that we're actually being fair to not just them, but to the people that live here, because this is our taxpayers'
Can I make a suggestion?
property.
Well, in the last lease, if I remember correctly, they were buying us proof that they have the insurance.
Correct.
That's not in here that they provided. It says, upon request, tenant shall furnish a certificate of insurance showing such insurance required by this paragraph 9, and there is no paragraph 9, it goes to taxes, I think, to be in full force and effect. So, upon request, I think that ought to be a mandatory thing.
I shouldn't have them be tracking them down to get a copy of their insurance. I think they need to, when it's expired, they need to have a new one sent over to us by their insurance company. That's what we expect from builders or contractors that come in. They have to provide a copy of their insurance, or they don't get their building permit. My suggestion to the council is that they are leasing 2 parcels. They're leasing the parcel for the building, and they're also leasing the parcel for the parking lot. They have to pay taxes on both. Now, if the city owns the property, we don't pay taxes, but being that we lease it out, they have to pay the taxes. So my recommendation to the council, being that we are so short on downtown parking, I would
That
like to.
shouldn't be exclusive.
You're right, it shouldn't be in an exclusive parking lot, so I would like to see them just rent the building and not the building and the parking lot. The parking lot needs to be specifically used for city downtown parking, because it's a city parking lot.
Yep.
Now, I understand they have their drive-through, that's fine, but all of that other parking needs to be able to be used for whoever else is downtown, because if their hours are not open, people park there, but they've also told people that this is coffee shop parking only. So I think.
And the way the old lease was, it really was, and
Yeah,
it
you're right, it
should
was.
be. And because, I mean, not just, after hours, but there are times when we've got quite a bit of parking out front here, and someone pulls in over there and walks across to the tire shop or whatever.
Correct.
It's not very often you see them completely packed where it would even be an issue. But we do have limited parking downtown, some of which, when it becomes Main Street becomes a city street instead of a state highway, we'll be able to mark off and delineate parking and make it more organized to fit more cars downtown. But at the same time, we need the space, and when it's not being utilized for them.
That's correct. And that's what I would say, I would like to see that separated. And then the city will go back to not paying property tax on the parking lot itself. And then, of course, the city's gonna have to maintain that parking lot, meaning keep it striped and everything else, but that's not gonna be an issue. But we just need to be able to use it for,
Can't get rid of the stuff down here across the street.
it's not my,
I understand.
and what's the square footage of that building? Do you recall, the coffee shop?
I don't remember, I was thinking it was like 1,800, but I'm not sure, that may be way off.
No, BMC, quote me if I'm wrong, but $1,200 for an 1,800 square foot
Yeah,
commercial lease is not even close to being comparable to what we need to be charging.
We've got, they just from Municipal League came out and measured and did all of our different buildings and reevaluated for insurance purposes, and they've got the numbers on it, so I don't like going off the top of my
I
head.
think it should be that's what I was gonna speak on, we should look at it, do now it's the on a market analysis at CMA, we're trying to see what the commercial rate is, and based on that, we come up with a number, but that 1,200 number, I promise you, it came out of nowhere. We'll put it in there.
Yeah, and then there's
There's
language
no
in
way.
here that says 4% increase from the initial term. Is that true? And I just heard comments, you know, the initial terms were very generous.
Yes,
Yeah.
So 4% doesn't cut it, first of all. I mean,
I think
but
it's-
1,200, yeah, seems low, so.
I think that 400 is sitting after when they renew it again, they can go 400% up. That's what
Oh, I see, wait, is that what you're saying? Okay.
For renewal.
Oh, okay. I thought they meant this room. They mean the future.
Right. This one is, that's what the lease is for, and while y'all are looking at it, it's to negotiate the new number.
I don't know if I put a number in for, I mean, who knows what's gonna happen in 6 months. I don't like that, I want to strike that.
When will this,
Now that I understand.
if they agree to the lease that we come up with, when does the lease they have now expire?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it's September first, maybe September or October first.
September?
Yeah, it's
September
just-
or October of this year.
So this will pick up from that.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, then to me, I understand about the cost and everything, but that insurance policy, we need to go through that within a week.
I would agree.
No later than the 7th of, I would say, of September. That needs to be,
There is qualifying and then really have to suggest that one thing I want to caution everybody, whenever you give a commercial building to somebody, you have to have a specific number of parking lot that you give them. You can't just say, I'm giving you somebody a building. I don't know what our city rules is, but usually you have to give them at least some parking lot that's there.
You can give them a few spaces.
Yeah. Something, I'm not saying you gotta give them something because they,
Give them
they
some,
have it.
yeah. Just, you see that in a lot of business, right? Let's just say, for coffee, you know, between these hours, or when it's open, coffee shop customers only.
But I think that's
But
critical
not a whole lot,
too.
right? Just
It
like-
should be for when it's
Like,
open.
when it's open and
Yeah,
private, and limited, maybe just the ones that are against the building, where you can put a sign,
Yeah.
you know?
They don't have designated parking like they're down on Dixon Street in Fayetteville, all of those businesses downtown. I mean, if you got a business downtown, you find a parking spot. So,
Even the large lot behind it is tied to all of those businesses. It's not for one or two.
well,
Well, I just cautious.
in this picture,
I don't know, you can give them a few.
you got what looks like a crosswalk outline, and then there's 4 spots right there that are marked delineated. We could put that there.
Yeah.
you could put a little sign up on that little parking curb, if that's what you wanted to do. But I just don't wanna waste a parking lot for something that can be used, and they shouldn't have to pay for a whole parking lot if we have access to use it.
This place open, this looks deal with that.
Yeah.
Not the business, it's the deal with that.
And that will also cut down on their annual taxes that they have to pay as well. So that would also give them a kind of a tax break that they would have to pay on that parking lot.
Anything else on
Not yet.
that? Next item is establishing a jail fund. By state statute, and it's listed in here, if the city passes an ordinance, which we did, I don't remember exactly what's the date on the ordinance. But it's been 8 or 10 years ago at least. We charge every, misdemeanor, conviction. It showed $20, and that $20 is supposed to be collected to where over time it builds up and it offsets our costs to the jail. It also can be used for certain things the chief brought up the other day that it could actually benefit our police department. But we have had, it requires, like any other ordinance, that when you pass it, there be a separate account, bank account. You've not heard of a jail fund account here. This is one of the ones that I found out recently was closed like 8 or 9 years ago. And it is a requirement that we reopen it, and really you have to reopen it because the funds that have been collected have to be refunded to that account because we were collecting them all that time. Now, Grace has a way to look in her software and determine how much we've paid on jail. And that can be deleted from that amount so that we have a good reasonable expectation to only put in there exactly what it should have held at this point as a balance. But that is something that we've been collecting all along. I know we've been paying out of the general fund because that's what we've had, and you gotta pay for the jail. But we can fix this and fix it in fairly short order, and that is what, according to statute, we need to do. So that's the reason for that. Okay, next item is the sales of the 2 police vehicles. You want to address that, Chief?
Yeah. When we purchased those 2 Tahoes, we were going to trade in 2 of the Ford Explorers on them. And the gentleman at Superior that we were dealing with as in charge of fleet sales, he was in and out of medical issues. Long story short, he forgot to include that in his trade-in, but they're willing to buy the vehicles from us outright for what they agreed to give us in trade-in value. So I think one of them was $11,000, the other one's $9,000.
But you said that one was
It was 12. It was 12. I'm sorry, it was 12. One's $12,000, one's $9,000. That's what they were going to give us in trade-in value, which they ended up not doing. But they're willing to buy it outright. In order to do that, I have to get your approval to go ahead and sell those cars, and then I can get the titles from the treasurer and take them over there, and then that money will just go into the general fund. It doesn't go to us; it just goes back into the kid.
We already agreed on the trade-in.
We did, and we paid, when we bought the Tahoes, we went over budget just a couple $1,000 because they forgot to include the trade-in. So, yes, we agreed at the time when we were working out the deal, what we were gonna do, what he was gonna give us for them, and then when it came down to it, I didn't catch it, he didn't catch it until it was already done, and we'd already bought the vehicles. So, I mean, we'll get $21,000 back.
That sounds good.
That's what they were gonna give us the trading value anyway. Just took a little longer to get that, so.
But we need that in resolution for the council to approve.
Correct.
Right.
So I can take it off our asset list.
And that's why we're
Yes.
discussing.
Yeah, we're good now, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, whatever the paperwork she needs to get it, that's what we need to do.
Finally, Mike, we get to vote on something that will get free money in,
Yeah.
rather than spending it anymore.
Yeah, I bring good news.
Yeah, Mr. Goodness.
That's correct.
I mean, like, 98% is gonna vote in, something's gonna spend us more money, cost us more money, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Sounds fair, too.
Thanks, Jim.
Next item is the mid-year budget that I've been working on the last few weeks. And if you notice, I'm not recommending that we actually pass this. This is going to come as a notification that we don't need to pass a mid-year budget at this time. We're going to review it again in a couple of weeks, couple of months, and see where we are then. We are a third of the way through the year, and if you look at the total at the bottom of the page in your total lines, the general fund, we've used 27% of our general fund budget so far this year. If you look under the administrative, we have used 23% of the budget so far this year. Planning has some issues we're gonna discuss and work through. There's a couple of things that are, I know I coded that, the administrative car repairs should have been car repairs, but we don't have a planning vehicle, and all of a sudden we have it in planning. There's a couple of things that's gonna have to come out and be adjusted, but they're still at 36% for the year.
I have a question.
Okay.
We've got yellow highlights.
The yellow means I'll explain this, how to read this up. I forgot that should have been first. This particular budget, our budget policy as approved and on the record is if our, say the police chief, and as long as his department of the budget, general police, as long as what he, if he goes over a little bit on ammunition this year, or maybe the cars need repairs that we didn't expect and it goes a little bit over, but he doesn't spend much out of another line item, as long as he's not moving it outside of his department, that department budget has not changed, the number hasn't, then he can adjust within that budget. And that is called an adjustment. It doesn't require council approval. It does require council notification. The yellow is those things. In his case, we didn't have to move anything yet.
Right, but you got the blue or the SIMRP.
Yes, and the blue means that there's something to be noted. That hasn't been updated in our financials in some cases, but we've done appropriations throughout the years the year that needs updated. SIMRP is a whole other thing that I was going to get to, and we're there now. SIMRP is a pass-through that I talked to the legislative audit about last week when I was in the middle of this. For one thing, it shows a tax credit on the paycheck for those people who do it, and then there's a withholding from their taxes that pays for the insurance. First off, for it to be a pass-through and to be in the budget, it should be on the income side and the outgo side. It's never listed on the income side. Secondly, the legislative auditor said that a budget should never show the things that are being deducted from their checks. That only things that the city is paying in addition to should be in there. For instance, if we're doing benefits and well, the prime one is Social Security. You withhold a certain amount and the city pays in a matching amount. Only the city's portion should be shown in the budget, budgeted for. Well, this is shown on the stubs as a depreciation, unless legislative audit said that should never be in your budget. As a deduction. I'm sorry, wrong word. But it's shown as a deduction, and they said that should never be in your budget. Those line items need to just be removed. All of them that say SIMRP, and they're in every department almost. And
the whole thing gotta be removed?
The whole thing should be removed for SIMRP, because it is if they choose to take it, it's a supplemental insurance. If they choose to take it, it's withholding it from their check, and it shows a tax credit or something going in on the income side that they said that after reviewing it, they told me this should not even be on our budget.
For example, the health benefit that does city pay, right?
Yeah, that would be budgeted for. This is different. This is a supplemental insurance. And they said that this is not something,
They
I mean-
do social security, but we do match part of it.
right, so we show our portion, not their portion.
That's because our portion's an expense.
Is an expense to the city in addition to the payroll that they're receiving. So that was their response, and I'm gonna be requesting that that line be removed from every department.
So, I had a question, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that was through.
So, on page 1, I'm looking at it, I know everything you said that we don't need to do anything to the budget, but I'm a little bit concerned looking at it right now, year-to-date budget, January actual budget, we have revenue of $1,351,000, right?
Right.
That's for January to April, so times it by 3 to make it for a year, if we could, same trend, that comes around 4 million, but our budget is 5 million, so have we over budgeted that much, or do we need to adjust our budget, or do we need to look and see what we're gonna do if we don't collect that money?
This is, if you look next to it, part of that 5 million is what we budgeted from reserves. And so we are, if you bring the reserves over for what we've proposed for the year and were to show it there, we're way above on what we've budgeted. If you take that reserve money out of this and look at what we've actually done for the year,
Then it would be okay.
then we'd be okay. And that was done because we knew that we were gonna have some overruns this year. That's part of the growing and the growth. But we also know that we've got some businesses and things coming that's going to, we already did the land swap. We gave up 1.2 million in appraised value, brought in 26 million. That's going to be January 1st of next year, that's ours. And so we didn't want to raise taxes because they're hard to lower again, to do some of the things that we need to do with infrastructure, with the growth.
I don't wanna raise taxes, that's what
Right.
I'm saying, I apologize.
So that's why we're dipping into the reserves that we had built, but with knowing that next year that a number of our taxes will be going up.
So that reserve's not gonna happen, basically, we're not gonna.
No, I'm saying the reserve is there, it was planned for, and when we get later in the year, that reserve, part of it may move over into the, what we're using out of this year's, to budget for this year, and it may not all come over. There's a couple of things where we may actually come in under budget that significantly. And so at the end of the year, it may not, but we budgeted for up to that.
So I'm concerned if you flip that page, for 3 months, 4 months, I'm sorry, through April, we're 64, almost 60, right at 65,000 in the hole. According to actual expense.
Yeah, and if you look at how much on the actual expenses was SIMRP, it's 62,000, the SIMRP was 62,000 of that.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. You take that back out and we're almost at break even.
Right.
Okay.
So Randy, your point of the property taxes was last year. Do we have a good projection of that? I mean, you just said some numbers that was the tax actual revenue that was.
Right, and some of that, there will be additional increases. We're selling a lot of building permits now. There will be additional increases as houses come in. I don't have an exact number. Part of that depends on how much you, in September, vote to make our property taxes for next year.
Yeah. So I guess where I'm thinking is looking at this way. Of this 1.1 million, or 1.137 million gap we had this year. How much of that, given if the goal tax is the same, How much of that do we expect to close next year? Would be
I would
the
get-
whole 1.137?
I will get you some numbers on that because part of that also from that growth, we've got a census that's gonna be done this
Yeah,
fall.
they're factoring.
And that'll factor in, and if I'm not mistaken, it was like, I can't remember, it was close to 500,000 or over just in that census number. And so, and then you've got property taxes, and then we're also looking into grocery stores and a restaurant.
Yeah, I guess factoring all that, I guess where we're at, right, just to summarize, is, so it's more just property,
Right.
but, when we vote, before we vote on property tax next year, I think it would be nice to know what that.
I don't
projection
have
is,
a problem
like
at all
baseline
with
saying,
that.
we have to hold it the same, and then, because if we can't run, we don't want to structure the deficit, we're.
No, we don't wanna
We
do
don't have to do
that.
this again
Mhm.
next year.
We want to start putting saving for the next step.
We can balance, actually balance it next year.
Right,
So understand what we did this year, that's understandable, we all agree.
right.
I mean, might not have loved it, but we all agreed on it.
We all agree on
But we all agree we don't want to do that next year.
No, we can't do it forever. It was based on that. Right.
And correct, because we know all that revenue is coming. So, but is it enough, right? If it's not enough, we might need to look at what else we can do to raise revenue. And I'm not, I don't want to raise taxes. At all. So
And if we have to,
either we
it should
raise-
be the bare minimum to get everything.
Right,
we need
there,
to do.
either raise the revenue or find something we can cut to.
Pay too much taxes now, just like everybody
I'm with that.
Yeah, and I firmly agree as well.
We all agree with that. I agree with that. So, okay, we'll.
But that is,
So,
but if you look at each one, every department pretty much is at that third or less of
Yeah,
budget.
I think we're running through.
So
We're not running hot, we're running about right.
we do have, a couple of larger payments that came in the last month. That's not in this, a property tax. The bill came in May, everyone paid in May, and it's not on here yet.
This is only in April.
And so there's, I think that looking at it again in June will give us a better snapshot of where we are on the year. So,
Sounds good.
the next item, we had a couple of people request additional items on the agenda. MC asked me to add Amy's alleyway, discussion.
Yeah, Justin is not here, unfortunately, and JJ is not here. JJ is working with his Canadian squad to close the alleyway, and they asked, they presented, they were asking where we had on it, and JJ called me. They said, well, we're bringing in Justin, I just want to get our update from Justin, and then we can discuss and see if we want to close it or not.
Right.
And of course, I would use myself.
That is, I knew that was a discussion point that was coming, but I didn't have it on here because Justin didn't have anything ready yet. But, that is
They've
something.
been very patient and waiting on that, and I just want to make sure we're adjustments.
And the next item has to do with the Facebook layout and this,
When I look at the Facebook page, it's not in order. I look at those things on there. I look, it says on Facebook, there's a new one, you go in there, you have to scroll down to find it. It's not in order. And I don't know what.
Chronological order.
Yeah, I've got one of them.
Okay.
I just bring it up again, and that's, weeds, it's been going on 3 months since I first brought it up.
and
Do I need to come down and do it?
no, it's, there's a work order on it, it will be done. He spent what we normally pick up limbs for a week, for a day because of the storms and stuff. He's been picking up limbs for a week. And so there was a misunderstanding. He mowed one side of the road last time he mowed.
Oh, you told me that.
And that was, but he hasn't done it again since, and until today, he did some mowing You can already do it to some
I'm
degree.
gonna let the other city.
This one.
I'll go down, make a visibility to the other city.
That's supposed to make it easier. I do know that, and that's something you really need to discuss with Justin.
Well, why are we on doing this?
That's why you need to discuss it with Justin, because he said, or I've talked to him about it, the property behind the, American Legion.
You got very clear.
When they put a sign out there and put it up for sale, they were moving forward to a different owner and possible action we could take locally, but it was owned in California. The owner died, it came off the market, and there's not someone to address it with right now. And they are doing some research to find out whether there's, how that's going to be disposed of. And so, I mean,
I know 3 different properties.
and you need to discuss the process with Justin. If they start work on them, it stops the clock and you gotta start all over. There's a whole series of things that has to be done before you can do what he's talking about. If they ignore it and don't care,
And just
you can go through it fairly quickly, but it takes time and effort and it can delay for years.
And Justin go over that with everybody.
He can, he's went over it with me a couple of times, and then in a meeting, he tends to wanna go a little quicker and not tie things up, but I'll tell him we need it in more detail. Because that's not something that we've ignored, it's something that, you really need to discuss and see what the process is and how it can be. We've sent letters and started it, and then action was taken, so it resets everything. And then it stalls. And that can go on for years, and it can be very expensive for a city. If they will do like he's talking about, not contest and not try to fix, you may be able to do it fairly quickly if they just stay uninvolved. But there's not many that do that.
You know, that's the problem with governments. Just common sense is gone. I mean, if you're not gonna do anything, you give them a time frame. If they don't, it's done.
Yeah, when I was in Houston, one of the city officials decided that, and actually leveled 4 houses, and found out that only one had gone through due process. And he got sued and lost and taken out of office because he was taking down people's property, and they were run down, but they had not been through the full property owner hadn't had his rights protected. And then he decided one of these properties had a really nice magnolia tree that was pretty much going to waste, and he moved it to his house, and that cost him another huge fine.
I'm not saying go through, I think we just need, it would be nice if we shortened the process.
Yeah, and that's, but to fully understand, and I'll talk to Justin about it, whether it's on those, in his report this next time, or whether it's in the next work
Somebody's
session.
gonna get hurt. That's gonna collapse over there. You can look in the window, it's already falling in.
There is a, we need to do something.
Yeah.
We need to do something.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, thank you.
We can send your.
What?
You're right. You're right.